where everybody fails is the discipline. How do you have the discipline to keep the structure and routine alive?
Well, I don't. It's something I'm constantly working on.
I have so many questions for your dad. This is going to be a fun episode. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me as always, Doc Jess.
Welcome.
And today we have a great episode for you guys. Everybody just got back to school, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like going back to school, give you guys some really cool tips and tricks about if you're a parent, how do you get your kids off to school? If you work in education, some things you can do to help the kids transition back to being into school. And so we have a really great guest with us. And so we'll share that with you as well. We're also going to talk about the infrared sauna and what that does to your body and to your mind when you use these infrared saunas, how that interacts with your biochemistry and what it can do for your brain-body connection. And it's really cool. You want to introduce our guest as who this guest is? I was going to do it, but I figured I would turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about the guest that's coming in today.
Yeah. I mean, it's my dad who is Pastor Cal Ainley, or Mr. Cal Ainley. He was in education. He just retired as a teacher. And so we're going to bring him on today to ask him a little bit about how over the years he's prepared mentally and spiritually for his school year to help him start and finish well with his kids and in his classroom.
That's going to be awesome. I have so many questions for your dad. This is going to be a fun episode. You guys are not going to want to miss it. All right, so let's start off with the new tool, which is going to be the new advancements, this infrared sauna. So I didn't know a whole lot about it. I'd heard about it. I'd read a little bit about it, but I didn't know a lot about it. I'd never met anybody who was using it other than you. And so this is going to be a learning experience for me too, because I understand it on the scientific level. Like I've done some research on it, but I have no practical application. So it's going to be really interesting to hear from you and your experience with this infrared sauna. And then we'll talk a little bit about the brain body connection. So let's start with this. How did you first hear about the infrared sauna and how did you start using it in the beginning?
Yeah. So my stepmother-in-law, so Billy's stepmom, she is Swedish and she's vegan, been vegan her entire life, incredibly healthy, young 80-year-old woman. And she is always looking into natural ways of healing. And she's always been such a good resource for us to, when we have ailments or pains or sicknesses, she's always coming in with natural remedies to help us. She's actually been a part of a group where she watched a woman with stage 4 breast cancer go into complete remission just with a certain fast that they put her on. And so, I mean, I know that food is a healing element that God has given us on this earth to help heal our bodies and things like that. So not that infrared is food by any means, but she's the one who actually introduced the infrared sauna to me. So she got a medical grade infrared sauna a couple of years ago. And I had been doing some research because in my growth walk, I've tried everything. I've tried hyperbaric chamber sessions. I've tried, everything. And this is a newer concept, the medical grade infrared sauna. And so I would start going once or twice a week when I was feeling really heavy with my mental health growth. And I actually noticed a difference pretty suddenly after I would use it. And so fast forward a year, my mom got an incredible deal at the Seattle Home Show and she surprised me with my own. And she would come over twice a week to use it because she's been a nurse for a long time and she has her own PTSD from some of the things that she's seen. And when she would things she's seen, when she would come over and use the one she got me, she fell in love with it, and the quick results she got as well. So then she went and got herself one. And so now my parents have one and we have one, and I'm in it 2 or 3 times a week. And I can really tell a difference with my mental health and with my recovery. When I was active in CrossFit, I was using it, and it was really good recovery when I had a really hard leg day or something like that. And so we can get into all the benefits in a little bit, but that's how I was introduced to the infrared sauna.
And so you said something really interesting. You said when you had those heavy mental health days.
Yes.
So what is that? What does that look like, a heavy mental health day?
For me, it is when I have like right now in my life, a heavy caseload as a counselor. If I have a heavy caseload of veterans with PTSD, that I'm constantly being triggered in sessions myself, or something triggers me outside of that. So a heavy mental health season for me is usually Memorial Day, Veterans Day, June, March, different times that I lost some good friends. And so those times come around each year, and I kind of prepare for it. And so I beef up the mental health tools, the mindfulness and the infrared sauna and things like that. But then also I'll go through seasons outside of that where I have a pretty heavy caseload as a counselor that I need to put a little bit of extra care into myself.
So what you're saying is wow. So what you're saying is that you use this as a preventative maintenance tool for your mental health. Like
offensive and defensive, yes.
Yeah. So when you're feeling like, okay, things are starting to get ramped up, it's before you get into crisis. Like,
yes.
I need to use this tool so I can maintain this level of commitment that I have to these responsibilities.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So it's not something like a crisis tool that you would use. It's something that would be like preventative maintenance, something that you do on a regular basis to maintain. Okay. So that's really good to know. So people thinking about this, you're looking at this infrared sauna. This is something that you do as preventative maintenance. Part of your mental health journey just becomes part of your routine that you do on a regular basis. It's not going to be something that if you're in crisis mode, you're going to get into this capsule, or is it, I don't even know, I'm guessing sauna, and it's just going to like fix everything. No. So this is something that you have to do on a routine basis. Yeah.
This is part of my mental health, self-care, if you want to, use that word.
Okay. So you say it's a sauna. So what does this thing look like? I'm assuming it's something like a tanning bed. Does it look something similar to that, or what does this look like? No,
it's a sit down. So I can send a picture as well.
Okay. We'll have Casey put a picture up what it looks like. Cause I'm trying, well, explain it to me. What is this?
So it's wood. Like? Okay. It's made out of wood. It smells like beautiful.
Cedar?
No, is it cedar? No. It's not cedar, but it smells like cedar or some good smelling wood. And then mine has, so the infrared lights are from the side, from the bottom and the back. The heaters are in the back, so it gets really hot in the back.
Oh, so like real sauna. So you're like getting like you would in a gym, like a sauna.
Yep.
But it just has these infrared lights in it.
Yeah.
So it's a regular sauna, but with infrared lights.
Yeah. Okay. And mine has near, mid, and far infrared. And those all target different areas. So the near is going to target any kind of skin rashes, eczema, acne. It helps with a lot of benefits to the skin. And then the mid is good for sub-Q, so muscle regeneration if you need to recover from leg day or preparing for a marathon or athletes. It's very, very good for athletes. Okay. And then the far infrared is where it really gets into the nervous system and helps that process, our nervous system realign, which you helped me figure out the professional term for that, which is BDNF. Right. Brain-derived neurotropic factor.
Yes, that's what they call it. So that's the brain-body connection. And that's something that I love to talk about here is the brain-body connection. It's something that they don't really teach you in school that I think should be taught in grammar school, high school, and then on into college at different stages to help people understand this brain that we all have and how does it connect to our body and these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we experience. What is really happening on a biochemical level inside of our body because of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions in our brain. Mm-hmm. And so it's really cool. They call this the BDNF. And that's the term that they use. Basically, it's the brain-body connection is what they're talking about. What is the factors that are happening in your brain that are affecting your body? And so it's really cool when you start to research this and look into it and understand it. It takes these big mental health terms that we talk about when it comes to like mental health and things like that, and it breaks it down on a level where you can understand it a little bit better on a physical plane instead of this mental plane that's sometimes hard for us to explain. So some of the things that it does, it will increase your dopamine levels, serotonin levels, and your neuroepinephrine levels. And it also reduces your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it's doing when these beams of light hit your skin, they're absorbed into your body, and it tells your brain to produce these chemicals, the dopamine, neuroepinephrine, and serotonin. It will boost the chemical production in your brain. It's like the on switch, telling your brain to turn on these receptors and start producing these chemicals. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you start producing those chemicals, it automatically reduces the cortisol that's coming into your body, which is caused by stress, anxiety, past trauma, anniversary effect, like you just talked about, these times that are difficult because of trauma that's happened in your past. And when you experience those around the same time, or when the same time of year happens around Memorial Day, your body will re-experience these things. And so cortisol increases. So how do you reduce it? There's a lot of ways you can reduce it. There's a lot of things you can do. And this sounds like one that you've been using that's helped you tremendously. Now, if you stack rank this, where would you put this? Like in the top 10 of things that you've used? Like where would you stack rank this out of all the different things you've done?
I honestly, I would stack rank this probably in the top 3.
Top 3. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And really because like, I believe, we are psychological, mental, emotional, physical beings. Okay. And so whether it's a subconscious or an intentional thing, when I go in it, I feel like I'm taking care of all 3. And so that mentally is going to make me feel better as well. So many studies have come out to even show that it helps reduce heart disease or heart problems by like 45%, just going into this infrared sauna 20 to 30 minutes twice a week. And so the research is really interesting as well in the medical benefits of it.
So if people want to try this, they want to try it for the first time, what's some advice that you would give them? And how do they find the right one? Because it sounds like they're not all created equal. Like there's the medical version that you talked about, the medical grade, but then I'm sure there's other ones that are not. So do you know the difference? Like how do people find the one that's actually going to be effective?
Sure. I used my stepmother who did all the research for me. And she just did a bunch of reading on which one's medical grade, which one's not. You can start by getting an infrared light if you want, and just hyper focusing on one part of your body to see if it helps if you have an injury or something. They have one, like I have one that I'll eventually bring to my office, my counseling office, that I can turn on throughout the day. Or there's actual, not gyms. I don't necessarily know if gyms have them, but you can Google who has medical grade infrared saunas available for, like Groupon's have it and things like that. You can go and do a trial somewhere first to see if it's a benefit to you or not. And maybe someday me and you can open up a health and wellness salon and have a couple of them there with some cold dunk tanks, and I don't know.
We could put it in the basement below the janitor closet. We could do that. We were going to turn it into Baby Fight Club, but I think that's frowned upon.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
well, they could fight and then come rehabilitate next door.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's one of the really cool tools that's out there, you guys. We try to bring you guys new advancements, new tools, expose you to all these different things, because your mental health journey is yours alone. And so we can share with you, these are all the things that we've tried. Like Jess said, she's tried everything. I've done the same. I've tried so many different types of therapies, exposure therapies. I've tried hypnosis. I've tried all kinds of different medications, legal, not not technically legal, because I needed relief. I needed help. And so I was willing to try anything. I was so desperate, and I did some trial and error. So we're bringing you guys these things. These are the best of the best that we think. So you don't have to go through the same process that we did of suffering through all these different things, but you have to try them for yourself.
Yeah.
So find a space that has these infrared saunas. It's probably going to be similar to like the float tanks that are out there, things like that. These wellness centers are starting to become more, I guess, they've always been there, but I guess they're being more utilized now, more talked about, because people are really invested in mental health since COVID. It's in the forefront of everybody's mind. So it's a lot easier to find these things now, find good reviews. So try them out and let us know what you guys think. Try these different techniques out and send us a message. Let us know what you thought about it.
And I can do a little research too and add it, maybe some resources to the website about what sauna I went with, what my mother-in-law found in her studies, things like that, if that's what our viewers would like me to do.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. One of the things we're doing is we're upgrading the webpage right now. And so all the resources that Jess has been sharing with you, all of the sheets, all of the things like that, we've been putting links out, but we're actually going to put that on the mentalhealthjanitors.com. And so it'll be right there, like a resource page for you guys, all the things that we talked about. And I'll try and get Casey to say like what show it was, like the show number that we talked about this, where it's from. So that way you guys have a reference point to find it easier and have all these things available for you guys. If you check out the mentalhealthjanitors.com, it'll give you a little bit of our bio. You'll be able to see past episodes, and we'll start to have these list of resources for you guys as well. All right. So moving right along.
Yeah.
Let's get into current events.
Yeah.
So let's talk about current events. Current event right now is back to school. Everybody's going back to school. Kids, adults, college age kids, even though they're adults, they're still kids. Everybody's going back to school. So this happens every fall, where we transition from this free time, summertime, having fun, warm weather to, okay, now back to the grind, back to school. And so this changes the routine for everybody. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you're an educator, if you're not an educator, everybody's routine changes. So my kids have been out of school for about 4 or 5 years now. So I don't deal with the routine of kids, but my daily routine changes. And I noticed today, because all the buses are out, the school bus stops, the buses. So now I know, okay, if I leave at this time, I'm going to get stuck behind buses. So I need to change my schedule for driving to be 10 minutes earlier so I can avoid it. I usually drive all the way down M Street and then take a left and head west on Main Street and drive right by the high school. I do not do that during the school year. Now I will go down M Street and I will take a left on like 4th and drive by the Burger King and then up to Auburn Way and then to Main Street. So even though I don't have kids, my schedule has changed as well. So that way I don't get frustrated getting stuck behind these buses. So this time of year, everybody's schedules are changing.
Yeah.
But we want to talk specifically about parents. I'd love to talk to you about it, because you have 2 kids who are in school. And so as a parent who is working, how has your life changed? What are some things that you can do to help your mental health journey with making sure the kids are ready, off to school, and everybody's set up for success?
Right. That's such a good question. What helps my mental health journey as we're transitioning? I have a freshman and a 2nd grader, and thankfully they go to the same school building, because it's like a little co-op homeschool type thing, Monday through Thursday. But for me, I don't. We've probably talked about this like years ago, pre-army. I was a total free spirit. Like, don't tell me where to be, what to do. I go with the flow, right? Like total boho. And then I go to war and I get hit with PTSD and TBIs. And I'm like, oh, I fought it for the longest time, routine and structure. Because I was like, nope, I'm not going to let the army do this to me. Like I found like my identity in that free spirit, right? Okay. And then over, years of failing as a human being, I would start to submit to some of the routines and structures. And so now that's what rules my life, is routines and structures. And, for my own mental health, really having those routines and structures in place at home with my own kids so they know what to expect. We're clearly communicating, because when they are in line with these routines and structures and obey it and follow it, my mental health is better. It's when chaos comes in that my mind starts to go crazy. So really, it has benefited me as a mother, as a parent, to have PTSD, because I'm so much more hypervigilant to little things that are off, that I'm much more consistent with my kids than I've seen other people, because they can handle, their mental health can handle a little more whining or a little more talking back. Maybe I can't handle it at all. It affects the way I am a mother. And so I have to get it all really under control. And most people that know me call me a drill sergeant mom as well. So I would really emphasize this routine and structure. And for me, it's meal prepping on Sundays, Saturdays or Sundays for the whole week for the girls' lunches. Because if I want my kids to eat healthy, because it's going to affect their focus and their mental health throughout the week, I can't expect them to go in and just make themselves healthy lunches. Like, I'm also realistic. So I prep as much as I can, like substance, healthier snacks, healthier foods for them, and have an easy way for them to go in and grab their healthy snacks, and they get one treat or something like that. But also dead times, like not dead times, but like structured times. 8:15, I don't care where mom is. You're walking out the door to go into the car. I'm waiting for you, mom. No, you're not. Your one job is to be ready, have everything done, and walk out the door at 8:15. If I walk out at 8:17, that's okay. I'm not like, come on, let's go, yelling at my kids to start off the day, right? And we've all been there. We've all done it. And so those are some things that help me, some of the top 3 things that help me get the day started off well with them.
And I talk about this in my book, Structure, Routine, and then Discipline. So anybody can build a structure, right? You see a problem like, oh, I'm going to build a structure around it, and then I'm going to create a routine, and I'm going to do it every day, and I'm going to do these things. Where everybody fails is the discipline. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing that everybody misses. And so I love to give this example of New Year's. When New Year's happens, everybody wants to get fit to have their summer bod, right? So they go buy gym memberships. They're going to eat healthy. They're going to work out 6 days a week, and they're super motivated. When you go to the gym in January, it's all new people. All the gym rats, like, they take January off. They don't even bother going to the gym in January because it's just overfull with people who don't know what they're doing, and they get frustrated. So they don't even show up. By the end of January, 2/3 of those people have already quit.
Yeah.
They're already going 1 or 2 days a week. And by March, there's nobody in there but the gym rats just jack and steal all day. Yeah. That's what happens. That's why in the gym memberships, they don't let you pay monthly. They don't pay you month to month. They make you sign up for the whole year because they know you're only going to use it for the first month, and then it's just going to sit there, and they're just going to be ringing that cash register, bringing your money in. So if structure and routine was enough, then everybody would be super fit here in America, because everybody wants to have that summer bod. Everybody wants to get fit, but they lack the discipline. Yeah. And so tell me about the discipline. How do you have the discipline to keep the structure and routine alive? Well,
I don't. It's something I'm constantly working on. But really, at the end of the day, so we call it Bergen's Boot Camp at our house. So when we get off track, we have a family meeting, we come back together. My husband and I, we apologize to our kids, because we are the leaders of the home. And so when we become less disciplined, the entire family unit suffers. And so we have to come first at this meeting. We do quarterly Bergen's Boot Camp meetings. So we come and we apologize for the areas that we have lacked in our discipline and structure and routine. And we clearly communicate expectations moving forward, and we just get back on track as a family. And there's so much that we can unpack about just that. Showing your kids that it's okay to say sorry. Showing your kids that that's what a good leader does. That's a different podcast, but that's what we do in our family.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. As you were saying that, I was like, this is a whole show right here. Like this, like, tag that, Casey. We will do a whole podcast on how to communicate with your kids, and that it's okay to apologize. It's okay to say that you've made mistakes, and what that does to the dynamic of communication. So we'll definitely talk about that. Both of us are on the same track, but we actually, so that's great where you have that structure and routine at home to set your kids up for success going into the school, right? Walking into those doors, being set up for success, so that way they can have a successful educational journey that day, that week, that month. How does that structure and routine set them up so they can be successful in school? And we actually have our guest here today to share with us how that works. And he'll be able to share with us not just how setting up your kids for success, but how, if you're an educator, how you can set yourself up for success working with all these kids who come from diverse backgrounds, diverse home situations, social economical situations, and they all have to come together into one classroom and learn a curriculum and get along. That's a heavy lift for a teacher, because you don't know what's happening in these kids' lives this morning, this week, this month. You have no idea what they're going through, but you've got to bring them all together into one place and start teaching them. That seems incredibly difficult. So we're going to reset the room real quick. And when we come back, we're going to have our guest with us, Mr. Ainley, or Pastor Ainley.
Mr. Ainley.
Mr. Ainley. He will join us and share with us some really cool wisdom about his decades of teaching the youth. All right. Well, we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Ainley, who is actually Jess's dad. And so earlier she was sharing with me how she cheated her way through school. So we'll get to that. But Mr. Ainley has over 40 years of teaching experience in a variety of settings, an outdoor setting, as a pastor, and then as an educator. And so he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge here that he'll be able to share with us from a different perspective, because most of us who are watching this probably aren't educators. There's probably a few of you, but the majority are more likely your parents than you are educators. So it's great to have you in studio, share some of these things with us. And would love to the first question that I have is, how cool is it to be sitting here on this podcast next to your daughter?
Very cool. Very cool. And I want to thank you too. Jessica's mom and I have had the opportunity to watch your podcasts several times, and we always come away enlightened because they're so practical. And so when Jessica asked me to come today, I thought, okay, how do I that's how I want to come. That's how I want to contribute, to be as practical as possible. And I don't have all the answers. I have some experiences, and they have, and some of those experiences are negative experiences, and we learn through those negative experiences, right? But I did have the opportunity of being raised in a home with two educators. My dad was a Spanish teacher for 35 years and then a substitute for another 35 years. My mom taught special education, and I went with her to her classes when she was teaching those things. So I got a chance to just kind of absorb, kind of through osmosis, the education part. But the 23 years I spent in the classroom were incredibly fulfilling to me. But it wasn't without stress at times. And that's what I wanted to come and talk about today. But I want to start with, about July 4th. When July 4th comes, most educators have had at least a week, if not two, to kind of just take a breath, unwind, and July 4th comes, they've maybe had a week to sleep in, they're doing brunch instead of breakfast at 6:30, and you've had a chance to unwind, and then you literally enter kind of a different rhythm. For 6 weeks, and you're just enjoying the summer, and then it's the middle of August, and you're running to Walmart to get something for an outdoor barbecue, and bam, there's this back to school sale, and literally you get this wrench in your stomach. Maybe you start to wheeze a little, maybe hyperventilate, your eye starts to twitch. You educators know what I'm talking about. It comes, it kind of comes unsuspectingly, like, oh my gosh, like school's 2 weeks away, and that's normal. Getting ready mentally for a new school year it's going to be at minimum stressful. and at most daunting or even overwhelming. And that's for an experienced educator. The new teacher, it can be overwhelming. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Now, and we'll talk more at the end about why a little bit of stress is always good. Okay, it helps you in that recital or that game that you're going to play to have a little bit of stress. But we want a healthy level of stress. Okay, and hopefully I have some things that I can share with us today. The first of which is, and so much of what you guys have already shared today, it's like exactly. I mean, thinking in my head, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the brain. I'm going to talk about these things. But the first one is choosing intentionality. Choosing intentionality. And I choose to use the word choose because it's a choice, just like discipline. You have to it doesn't just happen on its own. You have to be intentional. Webster's dictionary talks about intentionality being the fact of being deliberate. Okay? Another way of saying it is being purposeful. In a daily way, being purposeful. Because when we live with purpose, it helps alleviate the anxiety because we feel a little more in control of our decisions and our outcomes. But we have to choose to be intentional. So that, and Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's an educational specialist. He says, and this is so true, our intention creates our reality. Our intention creates our reality. So we have to be intentional. Now, as teachers, we all have these certain words that we describe our experience with teaching by. And they're different. Some might overlap. Some of us, we would use the word excitement. Some of us, you would use the word curiosity, maybe love, all these different words. But if there's one word that we would all use, it would be the word stress. I mean, it comes and we would say, yep, that's a part of it, stress. And if we are not well, mentally, physically, because of how, as you guys mentioned, how closely those are related, mentally, physically, and emotionally, then we're not going to be able to be there for our kids in the way we expect or want to be there.
Yeah. So true.
We have to be well. And so choosing intentionality means that we have to put aside some time to be intentional. We have to prepare ourselves first. And Jessica, I'm reminded of when you were a flight attendant for a number of years, and you would get up in front of those passengers, and you would be teaching them, or you would be training them on the whole process of putting on a mask. And who did you tell to put the mask on first?
Yeah, yourself.
You put your mask on yourself first. And why is that?
Because you can't help anybody if you pass out.
Yeah. And so the teachers are really good. They're really good at thinking of others first. And that's noble and it's even biblical. But sometimes we can do it to our detriment. Yeah. And we have to make time to prepare ourselves. And you know when that really begins? That begins the day after the last day of school. That's when it begins. We have to be intentional with our summers if we want to end up on that first day of school being there for our kids. As a Christian educator and as a pastor, I would be extremely remiss if I didn't, in my own, this is true in my own life, and I think it's one of the first things, and that's being intentional in our prayers, in our prayer time. Why? Scripture tells us that in Philippians 4:11, I can do all things through Christ, through Him who strengthens me. And in John 15:5, he says, apart from me, you can do nothing. I have to learn my dependence on God. And so I have to develop that relationship, and I have to abide in Him, and I have to talk to Him about the emotions that I'm experiencing, the things that I need to learn, everything, every part of life. And my vocation and my profession is a big part of that. So I would tell people, first of all, be intentional about prayer. And that includes praying for your kids. Just like parents are to pray for their kids, teachers are to pray for their kids and for your coworkers. That's an important thing.
You know, what's interesting, if I can interrupt for a minute, is one of my biggest childhood memories is waking up every morning, and it didn't matter if it was Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday. My dad was on his knees in his Bible doing his devotion with God every single morning, my whole entire childhood. And as a child, you don't recognize that as very important. But I heard my mom talking a few months ago about how she's like, I've been married to your dad 45 years, and I still am astonished at how disciplined and regimented every morning, even beyond my years as a kid. He wasn't doing it just so we saw him doing it. After I moved out, he continued doing it every morning, to where his own wife of 45 years is like, I admire that so much in him. And so I can attest to prayer in his life being disciplined and being a regular attribute to his mental health.
And something you mentioned, two things you mentioned actually. One was your intentions create your reality. And so I write about that in my book. I say that what you focus on, you find more of, right? Which is the same thing. And when you talked about, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So people focus on just that verse. I see sports stars do it. I see, movie stars do it. What Paul is talking about is suffering. Like, he is a missionary, the first missionary, and he is traveling throughout the world, setting up these churches, helping them set up structure. He's got to travel by foot or by donkey or by ship, all these different places. You can't carry a lot of supplies. So he's talking about, I know how to live when it's abounding and when it's scarce. I know what it's like to have a full belly and to be hungry. And he says, I can do all things through Christ. Even if he's suffering, he can do all things through Christ. And so sometimes when you just read that one verse, and that's why I want to share it with you guys so you don't miss it, that Paul is talking about the arduous task and the stress that he's going through, going to these different churches and helping them and setting these churches up, and all the problems that come with that. And the verse after that is where Paul is thanking the church, the Philippian church. He goes, because I've gone through all this stuff and done all these things, and you are the only church that has supported me. The only one. Out of all the work he had done, all the places he had traveled, they're the only ones who supported him, not just financially in his travels, but also emotionally by writing to him and giving him encouragement. And so when you look at that verse, I look at before and after, and it gives you a whole new picture of what Paul is dealing with. He's dealing with what you're talking about, the stress and the heaviness of the task that he has to endure, the arduous task of setting up these churches. And so our tasks may look a little different, but that still applies to all of us.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so true. And in the context of, the suffering part of teaching, the stressful part of teaching, it's easy to lose that focus. So I really appreciate you bringing that out. But so I started with, it starts the day after the last day of school,
right?
And just in your summertime, being intentional about the areas of rest, the areas of play, the areas of work, and the areas of learning. Okay, because we need to do all those things, and we need to do those things in a balance. If there's ever a profession of overachievers, teachers are those overachievers. And I want you to apply with yourself in the summertime the same things that you apply in the classroom, and that's flexibility. And make your plans for these areas, but remain flexible. Because it's not going to serve you mentally if you have a list of 10 things you want to do in the summer, and you get down to the last week and you're only on number 6. You're going to race through this, got to get it done. No, be flexible. But be flexible in all those areas. Rest, play, work, and learn. Give yourself some slack, and be flexible. Be realistic. If you're an overachiever, be realistic. Now, there's also the underachiever, okay? That's the one who says,
I wasn't looking at you, but
I just want to. No. My daughter is. You brought up when she was in school. My daughter kind of looked at school like a dinner and dessert. School was dessert, but it was social. It wasn't the meat and potatoes. In fact, it wasn't, academics were not the meat and potatoes. Academics were like maybe the glass of water. It was like way over here. It was all about social. But she did learn. I'm amazed at the way she learned in her middle school, high school, and especially post-high school days to really discipline herself and make the learning of academics as important as the social aspect, which was good. That served her well. But if you're an underachiever and you may just approach your summers as like, all I want to do is sleep. I just want to sleep. And that we do need sleep. So, for that first week or even two, get a lot of sleep. But then it's time to kind of pick yourself up and pick up your game. Add a couple of things to your summer list of to do, like go camping, visiting relatives, build something, paint something, crochet something. If you have landscape, creativity is something that is so important for us mentally. With our hands, when we create something, think about something that you've created with your hands and how, you step back from it and you go, wow, I did that. I'm really proud of that. It's very fulfilling. And that's important for our mental growth and our mental confidence to be able to create. So take the summer and create something. Applying and expressing our creative attributes is a super way to build mental confidence. Not to mention, the part of being fulfilling, like I said. But I mentioned the area of learning. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest things I did, and this was like 10 or 12 years into my teaching, I decided to take one book in the summertime and read it, and it was a how-to book, reading book. And you know what? I came away after reading that book with probably 6 or 7 or 8 ideas that I thought, I can't wait to do that in the classroom. Well, guess what? I just prepared myself mentally with an anticipation of I'm ready to go back. Mm-hmm. So learning can help mentally prepare us for for the new school year. So I always having done that 1 year really made it important, because all these things that we're talking about help you to relax mentally. Mm-hmm. In essence, they help you to sleep the same way that our brains need the sleep we have to rejuvenate, and our bodies get rejuvenated, they heal. We need those things to help us rejuvenate for the next school year, for jumping in. So I spent a lot of time on intentionality, but the second thing that I would say, and this may seem a little bit kind of like offset, but man, it's important. Practice being grateful. And I'm so glad that you shared in context what Paul said, and because he immediately thanked the Philippians. He did that. He thanked them for what they were doing. And we need to make it a daily practice when we get up to say, what am I grateful for? Ask yourself that question. What am I grateful for? Your health, your home, your friends, your family, your church family, your resources, your fill in the blank. What are you grateful for? Some research has even shown that those who practice gratitude actually get deeper REM sleep, for those who are practicing it. So it's super important to do that. And I'd say it's super important to start your year off that way. Be positive, Talk your first day at school to your kids about what you're grateful for. Over the summer, I was able to do this and this, or I'm grateful for this, and teach them. Ask them, what did you do this summer that you're super grateful for? Teach them to articulate those things and to recognize them and to embrace them. Be positive, be optimistic. One sign I had up in my classroom that I left up every day, I never took it down, was make today awesome. And it's just helping people to concentrate on the positive. So it's brief, but it's really super important for us to practice gratitude. Which brings us to point number 3, and it's, okay, I know, get organized. It's part of it. Don't tell me, I just want to wake up on the first day of school and everything be in order. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to get Organize. But you need to be intentional about your organization, right?
Yeah.
And everything in life, like you were, talking about in the area of being disciplined. We have to get our classroom ready. We got to get our workplace ready. We got to buy supplies and focus on those things. But I don't want to talk about that. Okay. I want to talk about the things like that we don't necessarily think about, because we want to sleep in till the very last day. And I say, no, take the last week of summer, get your kids up, get yourself up, get into the routine before it begins.
That's good.
And then you're going to be a lot more ready for that first day of school, because you've been doing it for a week. So that's important. Make lists. Lists are really important. I like lists because if I make a list of all the things I need to do, it becomes really, really overwhelming unless I prioritize. And I go through the list, and I'm going to either call it an A, a B, or a C. Okay, this item, this is an A. This is A. B, this is C. If I don't even get to it, it doesn't matter. You got this ABC list. Because what happens to us is, and I love this analogy, if you've ever used the Google Maps app, I'm tempted to scroll in the map to see where I'm going and what I'm going to do. And that's when you get overwhelmed, because I'm not going to remember all this. Remember, that recenter button that you push?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we have to do.
That's a good
push recenter, take a deep breath, and go back to my A's, or where I am right now.
Yeah, that's good.
All you have to do now is to know that in 900 feet you're going to turn right. All the other lefts and rights, they'll come. Yeah,
that's good, Dad.
And it's one reason why David in the Psalms said, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. That Hebrew word wasn't a high beam to show you, like your high beams on your car, to show you down the road. We'd get too overwhelmed. God knew that. It only gives you enough light for one step. And after you make that step, guess what? The next step is enlightened.
Yeah.
We just take it one step at a time. So recenter, get back to where you are, and just go, what do I need to do right now? Just today. And then today will lead till tomorrow, and you'll get the A things marked off, and you go, I finally get to the B things. So the first, making lists is important, especially for the first day of school. I've always said the very first day of school is the most important day of the school year. That first day of school. It sets the tone for everything. So I'm really intentional about making that first day what I need to communicate, what I need to accomplish, what I want my kids to know. And you know what? One thing I want them to know on the first day of school? I want them to know that I know their name.
That's good.
I take that class list, I go through it. I may make a seating chart, or I may not, but I make sure that by the end of the day, I'm able to go through every kid in that classroom and call them by name. Now, I may not remember tomorrow. I may have to review. But today, I'm going to say, hey, it was really good having you in class today, Aaron. And I hope you have a great game tonight if you're an athlete or whatever you're doing. That means I have to use their name 2 or 3 times during the course of that first day.
Right.
And I can't do that when my classes were like 26 and 28. But, some of my classes were more like a dozen or 15, and I could do that. And that's important, because we all know kids don't care about what you know.
Yeah.
They want to know you care. Yeah. And I'm telling you, knowing their name speaks volumes about, he knows me enough to call me my name. That's huge. Another thing that's really a really good thing to do to get yourself mentally prepared is connect with your colleagues, your other teachers. Go have lunch. Go have coffee the week before school starts. It just gets your mental gears, running for that part of your job that we do really enjoy. And that's the social aspect of being, I have been away from these guys for, a couple months, and we haven't kept up. So I'm going to get caught up, find out what they did, talk about kids, talk about school. I'm going to come away from that going, I'm ready for this. It's going to be good. Anyway, there's tons of other things we could talk about organization, but that's a boring subject. Just know you got to do it and be disciplined. The last area is processing your own emotions. And this is what you guys were talking about. Processing your own emotions. Even as you talked with Aaron through what he was feeling with the news about this morning. it's kind of like I'm sure you're both familiar with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's the one who came up with the 5 stages of grief. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what happens in the summertime with teachers. Mm-hmm. They first experience some sort of denial. It's like, no, school can't be starting. And we get angry, and it could be, we get angry because it could be over. I only got 6 of those 10 things done. We get angry because I didn't get done what I wanted to get done, good or bad. And then we bargain. And then we say, okay, well, if I do this or this or this, I'm going to treat myself to this. I'm going to get ready. And we bargain, and we quickly go to I'm just depressed. Mm-hmm. I'm depressed that that summer's over. But all of that moves us to the place where we accept the fact that, okay, the year started, but allow yourself to feel those things and recognize them and understand that those things are normal. Don't beat yourself up. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's important to help your kids process those emotions too.
That's good.
In fact, if there's anything I would wrap up with, Rebecca Newton is also an educator. She says, for most of us, nervousness comes with new opportunities and new challenges. So I mentioned at the beginning that stress, there's a healthy level of stress. Mm-hmm. When you're an athlete, if you don't have some stress, it's not, you're not going to, if you're a basketball player, you're not going to get up to the free throw and practice those free throws. If you're a violinist, you're not going to, you're going to practice because of a little bit of stress. Now, stress can paralyze you, and we don't want that to happen. But if we didn't have that occasional little knot in our stomach, it would suggest that we are not pushing our boundaries. And that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. And then the last thing I would say is, remember that your kids are also feeling. Your kids, teachers, your kids are feeling that nervousness as well. We all remember those first days of school, right? Who's in our class? Who is she or he going to put me next to? Who am I going to sit next to? What am I going to, a lot of changes happen over the summer. Are they going to laugh at me for this? Or are they going to, think I'm cool or I'm not cool? I'm so afraid of saying something stupid. And kids are nervous, and we need to help them to help them process that and understand that. And we will give them some of the most valuable tools in life when we help them to process those times that are difficult, and helping them to realize that those emotions that come with difficult times are okay, and we can use those to help ourselves grow and to help others grow, as Paul did. I'm sure that Paul, I don't know that he was, the very first time he got stoned, he probably wasn't necessarily thinking,
stoned as in they threw rocks at him, not as in he's smoking the mota. Okay. But they that's how they used to try to kill people, was they would throw stones at him. So
he learned
to be content. He said, I've learned to be content. Yeah. I've come to that point where I am content in the midst of these trials and tribulations and all this stuff that's going on, suffering. Anyway, so those are just some of my the things that I've seen. By the way, there's a lot of good websites out there. Teachers, you can go there. They're available out there. And I have accessed websites over the years. Even preparing today, I accessed some information that was from some websites that I found man, that is so true, because I knew it from experience. And there's a lot of other stuff that, wasn't necessarily, but it's use the tools that are out there. There are great resources.
I would like to circle back really quickly to when you said something that was really important, that the kids don't care what you know. They want to know that you care. And as you were talking about understanding that the kids are coming in nervous too, I would believe that validating your kids that first day in their nervousness might be an incredible resource to show them that you care as well. Because a lot of the kids feel misunderstood. Because, don't worry about that. You're being dramatic, all these things. But validating these kids in the first couple days of school, hey, I know if I'm overwhelmed, I know you guys are, and let's do this together. We're in this together, and good. I see you and I hear you, and anything I can do to help you in this process, please, my door is open. I if a teacher ever said that, I think it would touch me a lot. So.
one of the things that you said, and you bounced around it a little bit, and then you told the story of how you would pray for the kids, and then Jessica shared that you would do that every day. You know, you'd be in the mornings, you'd be in prayer. And we talked a little bit about this last week, I think, where we talked about the first 20 minutes of your day being so impactful. It sets you up for the rest of your day. So when we talk about structure and routine and discipline, if you're going to put that in any area of your life, put it in the first 20 minutes of your day. It's going to be the most beneficial. It's where your brain is going to be in that alpha wave form. And if you're watching my Facebook Live that I do on workplace wellness, it's a private group that I have for leaders. I go really in depth on this first 20 minutes of your day and how the brain works, how it absorbs and sets you up for the rest of your day. It's that intentionality. What you focus on, you find more of. So your brain is like a super sponge in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you put into it in the morning is what you're going to find throughout your day. And so with the structure and the routine and discipline, it can seem overwhelming, like all of these tips and tricks that we give you, like that's a lot. And it is. You don't have to start with a lot. Start with a little.
Yeah.
Start
20 minutes.
Yes, your morning routine. What are you going to do for the first 20 minutes of your day? I'm working with a veteran right now who's very successful, but he's kind of hit this wall and he couldn't progress. And so I talked to him about this first 20 minutes and he started it. And it's been mind blowing for him. For us, like we do it, we know. But for him, he's like, this is amazing. My day I'm so much more successful. I get so much more done. He didn't change his whole day. He changed the first 20 minutes of his day. So all of these tips for you educators and parents, all these tips and things that we gave you today, we don't want to overwhelm you. It was a lot of information. Just take a couple of them and put that in the first 20 minutes of your day. And it's going to help you be more successful throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you so much, Mr. Ainley, for coming in and sharing this information with us. We'd love to have you come back again. I would love to hear more about Jessica and her childhood and her haircut choices when she was young. So that would be great.
My mom's haircut choices. I was 8. I had no control over the permed bangs. Okay.
We will find the photo and we will put it up.
No.
That should be your
holy ginger bangs, Batman. Somebody said it.
That's so true. Oh, ginger bangs.
Here at the Mental Health Janitors, we love to educate you and then empower you to take these tools and apply them to your own life. And then you come back every week and we just encourage you along your mental health journey. So I'm Sergeant Q and this is Doc Jess and we're out. Oh, you're supposed to say we're out.
No, I'm not.
So this is Sergeant Q, and this is Doc Jess.
And we're out.
I don't know why you did that. I'm using the first one.